Welcome to the Artisan and Reenactors Market podcast. This is a chance to hear from the merchants, makers, living history experts and performers who are part of the ARM family. Hear them talk passionately about their products and history. The ARM family welcomes new traders, groups, living history and performers. See our website armarket.uk to find out more. Welcome to the Weaving Stories edition of the Artisan and Reenactors Market podcast. Today, Puku B. Vanessa combines her archaeology and education expertise to create innovative workshops to engage, educate and entertain, delivering workshops at schools, family events and tailored to any audience and setting. And me, Drakos Dottir, where I get interviewed by a reenactment friend about my historically accurate tablet weaving patterns and other Dark Age soft kit items, including naturally dyed products and heritage crafting kits. I'm now joined by Vanessa from Puku B. Hi, Vanessa.
Hi, Jenny.
So, Vanessa, you are Neolithic, Bronze Age, Iron Age, Vikings, Mayan. Where are you today? Where have you been today?
So today I've been in the Anglo-Saxon period.
Fantastic.
Doing a storytelling session with some year fours, learning about Hengist and Horsa. And then I stepped into the Bronze Age.
Oh, nice.
For my online storytelling, so historic storytelling. Been a bit all over the place today.
Yeah.
Yeah, different costumes for each character.
Awesome. So on your website as well, it said archaeologist and qualified teacher. I mean, you're busy. That's pretty busy, Vanessa.
Life can't be boring.
No, it can't. No, too right. Not when you're doing history. It's not, is it?
And see, I started off. I studied archaeology at university and finished my master's degree, and then started traveling. I spent 5 years with a project that I'm still associated with in the Maya lowlands in Central America.
Oh wow! I was trying to wonder where that link came in, because you had a lot of sort of ones that might be UK based and then Mayan. Oh, fantastic. So what was the project about over there?
It's called El Pilar. It's an archaeological site, and I helped create a binational park between Belize and Guatemala. A lot of household stuff, so a lot of similarity. And it ties in a lot with the prehistory as well. So it is a lithic. It's a pre-metal culture.
Wow.
You think of everything they achieved.
Yes. When you said pre-metal culture, then my brain went, what?
Nothing forged and cast. Metals come in from the Mexican highlands and from further south, Costa Rica, a lot later at the end of the post-classic, not long before the Spanish arrived.
Did they have precious metals though? So like the gold, the jewelry. They didn't have.
No.
No.
They had jade. So working gold compared to working jade.
Yes.
Gold's easy.
Yes.
You hit it with a hammer.
Yeah.
Jade is hard. And the things that they made out of jade are just fantastic.
Oh, awesome. So when you're doing Mayan as well, does chocolate ever come into it? Please say yes.
Oh, yes. So Chocolate was money.
Wow.
And they ground it up and made a drink, which is not what we recognize as chocolate. And I know Copperpot is putting together an Aztec version. I was just like,
Awesome.
what do you mean Aztec? It was the Maya that had the chocolate first. The Aztecs are the new guys in the bar. I know, the whole link with the Aztecs and Cortez.
Yes. And then we skip, not necessarily forwards, but to maybe a different setting for Stone Age, Iron Age.
Yeah. When I first came to Britain, I worked for Museum of London Archaeology Service, and I became London's first community archaeologist.
Wow. What's a community archaeologist then, Vanessa?
So the role changes depending on where you are, but my job was to engage the public with the archaeology of London and to work with the local societies in London to bring them on board, and for some of them make them realise they lived in London. If you look at a building, even if you're in central London, you can see things that are different. You see the old buildings next to the new buildings. You see where the bombs went.
Yes.
And another role that I do alongside Puku B is I teach for an organisation called Thames Explorer Trust, and we take people to do archaeology on the River Thames.
Right.
Right.
Like mudlarking type, is that
exactly.
What you call it?
That is what we do.
Oh.
And down there we've got Anglo-Saxon remains.
Oh. Now, Janet from Linen and Needles said to me that the most metal detective find in the Thames is sewing needles.
Pins.
Sorry, yes, pins.
Pins, yep. You don't need a metal detector. On the right tide, I've got some. I was down there between lockdowns, and I found a whole bunch of pins, and I picked up one. I was just like, that one speaks to me. Mm-hmm. So on the right tide at the right place, you don't need a metal detector.
That's amazing. That's crazy and amazing at the same time.
But you know, from your side of it, and from more modern than what either of us really do, that like during Tudor times, people were wearing hundreds and sometimes thousands of pins holding their clothing together.
Oh, right, of course, yes. So there's me thinking it's a seamstress going, oh, that one doesn't work anymore. But yeah, literally maybe someone just had a big stretch and
the pins fall out. Yeah. And there are places along the river where there are particularly dense amounts of pins, and that's quite often where the ferries went back and forth across the river.
Oh, right, yes, like it. Just standing there in a queue. Oh dear,
lost some pins.
Lost some pins.
But they're beautiful little hand-tied copper pins.
Oh, I'd love to see one. Oh, I'm going to come down and we're going to do some mudlark, and I'd love that.
Oh, that would be fun.
One of my friends actually shared this post with me. It was on your page as well. The world's oldest basket, Vanessa, 10,500 years old. That blows my mind a little bit.
It's in an incredibly dry environment, so in terms of preservation, it doesn't have the problems we have here in Britain of damp, humid. Yes. And what I really liked about that was they could tell lefties worked on it.
Yes!
As a lefty myself.
There you go. I love that fact. So obviously it must have been the way it was woven. Show how fast.
Well, I'm sure if you looked at my stitching and looked at your stitching, you'd be able to tell the difference between the left-handed stitcher and the right-handed stitcher.
So if you did a workshop on Vikings, what aspect of life would you want to show them?
So actually, when I go into school, that's my character role when I go in. I'm an archaeologist that's worked on prehistory. I present the whole time span. But with the Vikings, I do that in costume. And I focus on daily life. I go in a costume. My husband has gone off Viking, and he's due back. And so I get the kids to do things where they've got to get the longhouse ready.
They are really interactively involved all the time.
Oh yeah, I'm very much into interactive. Yeah. I'm there to give them a hands-on experience. And of course we've got to have play, so I have games and they've got to work out what some of the toys are. I either do, sometimes it's weaving, sometimes it's felting, sometimes it's butter making. It just depends what's going on. So really hands-on stuff.
Let's go Stone Age.
I love the Stone Age.
Oh, love it.
See, I grew up in a place where the Stone Age is only 150 years ago.
Which is amazing.
Yeah, well, I guess it's 170 years ago now, but hey, I'm not gonna count my age. But I grew up in a place where it was so close. So my appreciation of the Stone Age is different from people that grew up here. You know, there was no metal development by the time Europeans got to New Zealand. They were still using their adzes and their axes. And I did my first experimental archaeology in Stone Age technology. That helps me bring it alive to pupils. And I focus on the Mesolithic through to the Iron Age. And that's because of continuous occupation. And you think that basket we were talking about earlier?
Yes.
Well, that's when Britain was being reoccupied.
So do you think then, here's the question for you, with Europeans landing in New Zealand, would you call it like an interrupt? Well, I don't know how to word it. They didn't get to progress through what might have been their Iron Age.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, they had hill forts.
Yeah.
They had very, very ornate hill forts. And to a degree, the British people didn't understand the hill forts they had in their own environment. They go to New Zealand and they're being used. People are living in them and using them as a defensive place.
Wow. So there was a sense that an 18th century English person could look at Iron Age England by visiting New Zealand at that time.
I think it did increase people's understanding of what they were looking in their own landscape.
That's amazing.
The thing is with New Zealand, I mean, in terms of settling the world, New Zealand, Hawaii and Easter Islands, apart from Antarctica, they're pretty much the last places out there that people reached. And coming across the migration for New Zealand came across the Pacific from Asia into the through Micronesia, Melanesia, into Polynesia, and then out to the outliers. They had lost the ability to make pottery because when you cross across the Pacific, there's something called the andesite line. And on one side of the andesite line, there's clay, there's pottery. You cross the andesite line and you don't have those right clays to make pottery. And so it would have happened eventually, but New Zealand hadn't quite got to a pottery technology yet.
Wow, amazing.
They'd found other ways to solve the issues that we use pottery for.
Yes.
Innovative ways to solve those issues. So, you know, things, not talking hunter-gatherers, but a lot of the technology that you might see in the Mesolithic coming through, and in the early Neolithic coming through with what New Zealand had when Cook arrived. So, yeah.
So nettles. So you've been gathering nettles in your local area on your wanderings. What process do you go through to make the cordage?
So I'm trying some different processes. So I've got some that's just lightly scraped. I've got some that's been retted, so put in water and left for a few days to break down the cellulose on the outside the green on the outside because you want the fibre. It's a bast fibre.
Mm-hmm.
And I've got some that last summer, I quite enjoyed this, I chewed.
Right, yes.
Yeah.
So spines still on them, no.
No, so I stripped the stick out.
Uh-huh.
And I had these strips, and I'd store them in a bag in the fridge, and then I'd put them in a bowl of water, and then pick up a bit, chew on it, put it in another bowl of water.
Yeah.
Just while I was working, I was just sitting there chewing nettles. So I'm working on a nettle, and this is a green nettle basket.
Yes.
Of just kind of proto nail binding, repeated knotting as you go around, and you make the string as you go. Some of my online stuff that I do for a US platform, I teach how to make butter online.
Nice, yes.
I've got one messy butter and how to make butter the ancient way. We use our hands. I had a Danish kid take my how to make Viking hazelnut cakes.
Oh, nice.
So, you know, we just do all sorts of things.
Love that. Awesome. Right. Also on your website, Vanessa, I noticed Histrionics.
Yes. So Histrionics is a new project that started during lockdown.
Wonderful.
I'm working with the fabulous Kate Orr, who is another museum educator and qualified teacher. And it's all about storytelling.
Love it.
And so we've put together some stories and some characters that will come and tell stories from the past and engage pupils and use objects. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, and we're in the process of recording more of an adult podcast, although nothing inappropriate for children, but all about the myths that people tell about the Stone Age.
So sort of myth busting in a way, sort of.
Yeah, myth busting. So I know when I go into schools, I love mammoths. There's not a problem with them, except that everybody thinks of mammoths when they think of the Stone Age.
Yes.
And yeah, it's the Paleolithic. A lot of the Paleolithic, Britain wasn't occupied. There were huge bits where it was, but a lot of it wasn't. So I do workshops focusing on the Mesolithic forward because of continuous occupation. The mammoth had died out 4,000 years earlier. So I'm a champion of the auroch.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Horns like that.
Big grumpy cows. I have a Mesolithic story based on some of the objects from Starcar. Right. And I told it to some of my American storytelling group. And I had a 6-year-old come out and go, "Why was the auroch grumpy?"
Oh.
So I was like, "Well, would you like me to tell you a story about that?" So the following week, I had to write a story about why the auroch is grumpy, or how the auroch got his grump. And both for Historics and for Puku B, we can tailor things to specific locations, tailor things to a specific time period. Teach a kid how to spin in 10 minutes. They're not perfect, but they've had a go. And it's that holistic learning, because now they can go away and they can talk about the materials. They can talk about the skills people had to have in the past. They can talk about the length of time it takes to make something. They can talk about how it feels.
Absolutely fantastic talking with Vanessa, who is so knowledgeable and experienced in many time periods and workshop settings. Up next, I'm interviewed by a Viking.
Hi, I'm Goat One Armband. You may remember me from such comics as Vikings Against Venkviziers and Look Out, He's Got a Shot. Today, I'm talking to Jenny from Drakos Dottir, who you may recognise as the voice behind the interviews for the other traders at Arm. Today it's her turn. Now, obviously, she can't interview herself, so she's asked me along to help out. Hi, Jenny. How are you doing?
Hi.
So, first things first, tell us a little bit about yourself, Jenny.
I first started reenacting in 2016. I was part of setting up a group with someone who'd been doing reenactment for 20, 30 years and had the absolute privilege to go to many different events, from the Battle of Hastings to an event at Harmay Castle in Finland, to Stamford Bridge, to local little fete events where you do and have a go archery for the kids and stuff like that.
How did you get into the business of tablet weave and textiles?
I like a bit of archery, but even at the training sessions, I never really wanted to be a fighter. I can remember training with someone and they smashed into my shield, and I may have made a little noise, and they said something like, well, they're going to do it harder than that in the real thing. And I think that was about it, really. And also, my empathetic nature is I don't want to hurt anyone. If someone falls to the ground, my instinct is to go, oh my God, you're right. What's happened? Yeah, so I was never going to be a fighter, really, although I do like a bit of archery from a distance. That's my bag.
So as long as you can't see the results of your violence, it's okay.
Well, yeah. I'm a trained archery instructor from a multi-activity centre. So then the other thing to do would be live in history, and I had been sewing for years, made my own clothes, made presents for people, whether they liked them or not. One of those people. Oh, look, a coaster set from Jen for Christmas again. Yay! Why couldn't you just buy something? Yeah. So that was me. And I like making stuff. So then, of course, when you start in a group, you have to get your kit together. And so I started making kit. And then I started looking at embellishments on kit, and someone suggested tablet weaving. So I started investigating how to do that and looking at patterns that came from different Dark Age grey finds. Although there was a gorgeous one dating back to from the Iron Age. The Hallstatt finds are just awesome. Love those. And yeah, so I just started doing that. And then other things came along, like the Nile binding. And now I do this full time. This is my job. I'm enjoying the living history, heritage crafting journey that I'm on.
That's fantastic. It's always nice to find your passion through your hobbies. And, I actually promoted you at my virtual Hastings events last year.
Yes.
So I got a chance to see a lot of your wares because you sent me across the photos to obviously help promote you. And I don't mind saying that it's some of the best tablet weave that's available, certainly from an independent trader, which is always fantastic.
Mr. Goat One. I'm actually working on some Anglo-Saxon braiding, which is tablet woven / pickup brocaded, so it's slightly different. I've got one Anglo-Saxon / early medieval piece of weave, which is the Cambridge diamonds. Everything else, it comes from a Viking settled country. So yeah, I'm really wanting to get more for the Anglo-Saxons. Hey, Godwinson,
Yes. I might have to call upon you because I'm putting together a distinct Anglo-Saxon. Oh, that's fantastic. So aside from obviously working on an Anglo-Saxon specific weave, is there any product or textile that you'd want to work with in the future?
Oh, I mean, so much. Good question. So the answer is yes, all of them. And so I'm really enjoying that natural dyeing journey. And then within that, I have got about 20 fleeces from different sheep that are stashed away, waiting to be prepped, then spun, which I've had a little bit of a go at, and it is just as hard as it looks. So I'm looking forward to that day when I can, sit outside in the sunshine with my legs paddling away on my spinning wheel. So then I can really go, wool dyed product and have a hand in every stage of it. That's really exciting when you can do that as a maker.
I think it's really great to have that connection as well, because when people come to you with questions about, I want some tablet weave, what's best for me, and having all that contextual information is really important to help them inform their choice. So I think it's fantastic that you're building up this knowledge base, from every stage of the process.
Yes, and it is a gradual learning curve, because there's so much out there that you just can't take it all on at once. Like, for example, sprang. I want to learn how to make sprang bags, hairnets. The other thing that I wanted to make as well, talking of heritage and hands-on and things like that, is kits. So I'm part of the Heritage Craft Association, and part of their ethos is to carry forward your craft. How are you going to make sure that future generations have a go, know about it, know what its purpose is, and keep it going? So I'll teach anyone who wants to learn how to tablet weave, nail bind, whatever it is, at a reenactment, if there's time. I don't feel like it's taking anything away from me. I feel like it's just passing it on. So I'm making these little kits of different types of weaving, maybe some hand dyeing if I can, natural dyeing if I can get the elements together, and spinning and things like that, so that people can come and take a little something away from my stall and have a go. Make good presents as well.
That, honestly, that sounds like something I would pick up, because I'd love to see more of the process in my kit, because I usually have someone, although there's a lot of bits I've made myself, there's still quite a lot of it that has relied on other people constructing it in the first place. So I think that's a really great idea, and especially marketing to kids, because I feel kids should always do more craft.
Yeah, and especially at this time, I feel like everyone at this time has had time to be able to put their hands to good use.
Absolutely. Like during lockdown, I've been twiddling my thumbs like a madman. So yeah, those kits like that would be fantastic. We've spoken about how you're learning more of the processes and every step of what you make in the historical context. Is there anything that you've researched in your research that you found surprising, or maybe like you wouldn't have thought that was the case?
Yes, one of the more recent acquisitions has been looking at the Osberg textiles, and with the Osberg, I am on a Facebook group with the most wonderful lady who's written a thesis about the textiles, and in particular about one of the bands, which is called 34D. So she's got a whole book just about that band. And then the other book that she's got, I have both. Bainty, her name is, and she's my Facebook friend now. The other book is about the rest of the textiles, and it's just been amazing to look in close detail through her eyes. She's Norwegian, and her book is one page Norwegian, one page English, luckily. And so she's got close-up images of the textiles. And one thing that I'm really getting into now is thread count. I'm really getting into that. So that is how many warp and weft threads you would have per square inch of woven fabric. And so therefore, if you have more threads, then it's a finer weave. And there are things dating back from Egyptian times that are tiny spun threads. This is a skill that people used to have, and we don't have anymore. Generic, we. So with the loss of these skills is a loss of the appreciation of how clothes are put together, for example. And especially when you can go and buy clothes for £2 or £3 somewhere, then you've completely lost the process. And I think getting back in touch with the process and counting the threads and whatever it might be, that's where I want to be, and that's where I want to help other people be.
I think that's really important as well. I think a large part of our hobby is context. It's all about context. You know, everything that we wear relates back, even if it's as basic as here's a sword, it was found here, and that's as much connection as you make. It's still context based, and it's really cool that you're now looking to share it through these kits as well. So I guess the only thing to ask you now is, where can you be found? What events? What's your site? Where can we find Drakos Dottir woven goods?
Well, when I'm not hiding in some woods in Suffolk, I can be found at reenactment events. So I tend to go for Dark Ages, so Viking, Anglo-Saxon, early medieval, because I find that obviously the reenactors are there, so I can sell to them, and the public really get into the mindset of reenactment. They enjoy discussing my textiles with me then, and I'll always talk to someone about, well, this is nail binding and this is how it's done. So yeah, reenactment events, love that. I'm also part of the Traders Market, so that's twice a year, as is the Cambridge Living History Fair, twice a year at St Ives in Burgess Hall there, and then just about wherever the van will take me. I went up to Scotland last year. This was epicness. Just outside of Glasgow is a reservoir next to which they have built a fort. It's just stunning. This is called Duncan Medieval Village, and I went up last September when there was a gap in the COVID restrictions where we could be outside, face masked and alcohol gelled up. Yeah, so we went up there for an event and put the tent up and had an amazing time in this fortification with amazing buildings, and the fort itself had been used in TV programs and stuff like that. In fact, they've got a TV program they're filming at the moment called Chaos Rising, which is a piece of fan film based on Warhammer. So yeah, so it was just stunning to go up there, and they've got a pirate event on this year. So actually, I don't really care what era event they put on, because it's just such a magical place. I'll dress up as a pirate. I'm doing it. I'm going. That's it. So anywhere where there's Vikings or something pretty to look at, or preferably both.
Well, it's been lovely chatting to you, and we will link all your Facebook page and your selling page in the description below, and hopefully people will check you out and get some rather lovely historical textiles off you.
Thanks for asking me the questions. It certainly was different being on this side, and yeah, I need to take the reins back now, I think.
Yes, I shall pass them back to you, and hopefully see you soon. Thank you very much.
Thank you. You've been listening to a podcast from the Artisan and Reenactors Market. The Arm family welcomes new traders, groups, living history and performers. See the website armarket.uk. All music from this podcast series is provided by A Merry Noise. Find out more about their medieval, Tudor and 17th century music on their YouTube channel and their website amerrynoise.com. Asking the questions has been me, Jen from Drakos Dottir, and also Norfolk, to explain the accent. Thank you for listening, and we look forward to your company next time.